For many drivers, they talk about the challenges in some of the most difficult tracks they can come to visit. One of the most difficult that has been built in recent years is Charlotte Motor Speedway's Roval. Whether it's the challenging bus stop or whether it's been the tough transition from the main infield back onto the racetrack, the track can be one of the most treacherous in all of motorsports in recent years. While it had some history prior to its renovations before the Bank of America Roval 400's inauguration for NASCAR just a few years ago, it's going to be a challenge today, to say the very least, for our competitors for the Big C's MX-5 Challenge. The question is, which driver will take the checker flag at the Charlotte Roval? We're about to find out live on the Global SimRacing Channel. Welcome everyone to today's edition of the Sim Experience Countdown to Green, live from America's home for racing, for round 5 of season 5, the Big C's MX-5 Challenge. I'm Justin Prince. Along some of the booth tonight is Stefan Schlacker, behind the scenes art director Sean Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. A lot to talk about when it comes to this racetrack. Let's take a look at your GSRC track guide to start things off.
Welcome to Charlotte Motor Speedway. Until a few years ago, most race fans probably didn't know that this track had a road course layout. Thanks to a huge revamp to prepare for NASCAR to race on it, the Roval is now a top-tier facility. Situated in the northeast corner of Charlotte, North Carolina, there's a whopping 6 different road course layouts. They range from just under a mile to a little over 2 miles in length. Like most Rovals, the high-speed banking on the oval portion makes up the majority of the lap length. However, one unique feature that isn't often seen on other Rovals is that this track includes a decent amount of elevation change. Passing is often difficult, and the 2 chicanes on the oval portion are notorious for their unforgiving curbing. Lesser-powered cars find overtakes a bit easier with the slipstream on the banking, but anything with some oomph is going to have to work very hard to get by their rivals. If anything, attrition often rears its ugly head, and simply keeping the car pointed forward and clean will net you a good finish. While the debate rages on among gearheads on whether oval cars should race here, one thing is for sure: it provides some wild action and almost never disappoints the fans in the stands.
That was a look at your GSRC track guide for Charlotte Motor Speedway's Roval. Remember, the countdown to green is brought to you by SimExperience AccuForce steering system. With the most advanced tuning features on the market, the AccuForce Direct Drive is second only to the real thing. To check out the entire SimExperience line of products, head on over to simexperience.com. Let's go over to Stefan Schlacker. And Stefan, interesting race today for the MX-5s. Let's talk about the Charlotte Roval.
And the main talking points here today, Justin, will most definitely be turn 1 and the 2 chicanes we have here, because let's be honest, this is also a draft track for a club car like the MX-5 is. So these 2/3 of a kilometer racetrack, that's 3.67 kilometers, if you prefer that view of saying it, will most definitely be not the greatest challenge these guys have faced all year long. Because we have the slow chicane on the backstretch, so we will see some overtaking maneuvers into it. But all in all, the infield not really challenging. Few off-camber corners, but as said, not really a challenge to an MX-5 driver. Where it really comes down to challenging is the draft management, because you still have to be fast, especially through turns 2 and 3, to hang on to the car in front of you. So the biggest question we will see is, how many overtakes will we see into that backstretch chicane? Because it is crucial to not lose too much time to the guys in front.
A lot to talk about, to say the very least. It's going to be an interesting race, especially for our points leaders entering tonight. While Brandon Hawkins had a strong past couple weeks when it comes to the wins at Suzuka and Road America, it's Elvis Rankin with the win last week at Watkins Glen, who is in the points lead entering tonight. 94 total points on the season for the up-and-coming youngster in all of real world and iRacing circuits. Brandon Hawkins is second to the points, 17 points back, with Yamai Torres in third. Clifford Evan enters tonight, 47 points back in fourth. Robert Hartley rounds out the top 5. Keep in mind, the winner of this year's championship does get an AccuForce Pro V2 wheel. Second place gets an SH8 shifter, Newt shifter, while racing gloves for -273 are awarded to third place. So a lot of line for those drivers. The 3 favorites, though, have become visible entering today's race. Let's take a look at those details, shall we?
And as you already said, round 5 in the beginning of this 10-round series. Today, as always, 40 minutes will be the race length. And remember, these guys do have a capped fuel size. They're only starting with 3.9 gallons of fuel. So they will only be able to make 25 minutes of the race on the starting fuel tank. The setups are completely fixed to the iRacing baseline, so if you drive the Rookie Mazda series, that's exactly what you get also in this series. As always, the incident limit is capped to 20 incident points, so might be a little bit troublesome at some points, but I don't expect anyone to getting somewhere close to that 20 mark. And the points, as always, pay out from 1st all the way down to 15th.
Don't forget solo qualifying as well. Let's take a look at those qualifying details presented by SH8 Shifter as qualifying is underway with Brandon Hawkin at the top of the pylon. 4 laps, 15 minutes on the clock. Strict scrutiny for qualifying details. Once again, that's brought to you by SH8 Shifter, who uses only the best commercial plastics to create the high quality 3D printed shifters you need to give it your all on the track. Their commitment to detail and durability ensures that you receive the perfect shifter. Find them on the web at shiftershh.com. Drivers currently in the midst of qualifying, about halfway through the clock or so. 81 degrees Fahrenheit, your track temp today, 78 the air temp for this one. Around that baseline for the series, sunny skies, 56% humidity on iRacing Day, May 15th. So far, been very quick if you're a fan for Brandon Hawkin. A 132.1 at the top of the board. Andres Brito, Yami Torres, Jan Manuel Fernandez, and Caleb Hides currently round out your top 5. Albus Rankin, your points leader, currently scored P9 so far, Stefan. And when it comes to this racetrack, of course, it's had a lot of changes from the past couple times this series was here in the past. Before, if you think back, this was originally when the last time the series was here, which was a couple iterations ago for the Roval design. That was before the 2019 changes to the bus stop. And previous to that, racing with the normal layout, so to speak, prior to NASCAR's races, where you had the whole backstretch and front stretch as a draft zone.
Yeah, most definitely, but these guys are so skilled, I don't see anybody not being able to adjust to the changes of the bus stop. In all reality, this bus stop is a much better one because it actually is a speed breaker for these cars as well, not just for a NASCAR like the last one was, even though the last one was also extremely treacherous, no matter what car you were racing in.
Yeah, before you can use it almost as a ramp of sorts, to say the very least. I kind of joke with the turtles here around this racetrack, but still, it can make it interesting to where it's... You mentioned the importance of the draft, especially for the front stretch and some of the NASCAR turns around this track. It can also be at the same time, because of that, more so a technical road course. As we take a look as Hawkin bumps up his time to 131.9. That bumps him up by 0.2 for the pole.
Yeah, and speaking about turtles, you still can launch off them, especially on that backside chicane. Let's not forget about that. But the good thing is, we're not at Daytona, and we don't have that horrible last turn chicane.
I wasn't even going to go there, but okay, on that mark. But still, let's talk about some of the challenges for these competitors. How do you feel? Where do you feel it's going to be the danger zones when it comes to this racetrack and its particular layout today?
Well, most definitely, the danger zone will still remain at that backstretch chicane because, while yes, it is now a hard braking zone even for these cars, they still have to manage to get through there too wide because it is extremely narrow between that left and right hander. So, have to be a bit careful. Also, on top of that, the line changed extremely through that chicane because now the racing line brings you all the way to that wall that is there coming back onto a track. So you really have to be careful not to take too much speed through the first part of the chicane because you're gonna meet a safer barrier at quite some velocity.
Now you mentioned, I believe it was turns 2 and 3 that you mentioned specifically before the draft. Where are the best passing zones then overall? Those particular spots, or what are they, in your opinion, for this one?
Passing spots, we're most definitely talking about the last chicane, that backstretch chicane.
Yep.
And you still can set up a pass through the infield, even though it's not really lucrative, because you then have that big drafting zone onto the backstretch. And turn 1 still can be a passing opportunity, you just have to set it up through that last chicane. So I wouldn't say that we only have basically 2-trick pony here in front of us with the backstretch chicane and the last chicane, though that is where most of the action probably will be happening.
Of note, 44 drivers have made their way around to the racetrack. Vicente Salas, also of note, has had 4 times he's had to roll to the pit lane this qualifying session. One of the air drivers not yet to set a time out of the 3 total not in that grouping is Jared Kaler, Brian Benhart, and Salas. This is an outlap, by the way, for the 58 machine. Most drivers have completed their qualifying laps with under 4 minutes to go on the board. And the interesting thing is, the drivers who entered today, a lot of them have oval backgrounds. Garrett Liebert, for example, from Dead Zone Racing, coming across the stripe, putting up a 132 on his lap right there. You also have drivers that we've seen compete in the past, like Vicente Salas, the oval background, but also others like Nicholas Short and Lucas Cram electing to make starts today.
Yeah, well, in all reality, it is a oval with just 2 added right-hand turns. So not too much complication there for these guys, as I'm pretty sure they will match those 2 right-handers just fine.
It's a fun track, though. That's the main thing, though. Especially, as you mentioned, with the MX-5s.
Fun no matter what car you drive, even if it's just the Solstice Rookie. That is, by the way, even slower than a Solstice, believe it or not. But, oh, Lucas Cram, that's an interesting one there. Yeah, it has a very interesting characteristic. While you have those 2 chicanes in the track, it doesn't break the flow necessarily. If you're having a great battle as well, you can have those passing opportunities added to the track. So it is just a fun driving experience for the whole family.
Should note, just about every single driver on the racetrack except for Jared Kaler can set an official time. Everybody else that's on the circuit is having an additional warm-up lap. Interesting note involving the 46 you see it here. This is an F4 driver who was raced in Russia as well as Southeast Asia, and at the time as well, back in 2018, had applied and been accepted for evaluation for the W Series. She's also a streamer, just so happens to have a soundboard set up involving Bill Soupçon in his start call, believe it or not. And I believe you've learned a lot about that driver in recent times.
Very interesting character, very calm character as well, like you would expect a real-world racer. Not really getting too excited during the races, but really makes her moves count if she has to.
Right now, by the way, she is in 39th position. Taking a look at Clifford Evan Curley as well in that grouping. You can put into that for NX Racing. The driver to keep an eye on here as the crash comes along the stripe still would be Jared Kaler. He is one of the drivers who can still set a qualifying time. In fact, the driver definitively who towards the front who can bump up their times. As several drivers end up nearly crashing across the stripe, the focus now goes to the 58, the last car running on the racetrack, and obviously based on the paint scheme, hoping that he doesn't become the iRacing crash test vehicle.
Yeah, Californian-based driver, the 58, hasn't set any practice laps, so not really an indication of where he might be able to go. Let's hope for him it's going to be somewhere inside the top 10, because that will really mix up things. Jared Kaler in that 58 very early on the brakes. I don't even think that's going to be a fast one.
Didn't set a single practice time for this, and he's hitting the wall before he gets to the stripe. Well, that's a way to try and validate your lap. Instead, that puts him towards the back and brings us to our pitbox.io starting grid. Pitbox.io is a new cloud-based data platform that allows drivers, engineers, and coaches to store, analyze, and share data such as track notes and car setups to better improve performance on the racetrack. Visit pitbox.io to get started. Drivers now making their way quickly to the starting grid. It's Brandon Hawken who will start on the pole today, the only driver in the 131s. Andreas Brito, though, starts off in second. We'll see how he does for the outside line going into turn 1 in the Tums Hartburn turn. Ben Hamlet tries to carry some momentum from last week's race into this week with Torres in P4. Juan Fernandez starts in 5th today alongside Kip Highs, with Shane Sullivan in South. Elvis Rankin, your points leader in P8, Jarrett Liebert from Dead Zone in P9, and Clifford Eben rounds out your top 10 for NX.
James Saunders, the number 17, starts in 11th, with Cookit just alongside him in 12th. Rui Coimbra, the 13th place machine, with Robert Hartley only starting in 14th place, so he really has to get the gears running. 15th place went to Dylan Alt, with Nicholas Short in 16th. 17th went to Jordan Blackmeyer. 18th to Daniel Munoz. Joaquim Pasti 19th, and Henry Morse took home 20th.
Taking a look at the 21st on back positions, it's Bastamonte in 21st, Austin Smith in 22nd, Lindroff 23rd, Schmidt and Heights round out the top 25. Simon Paulding will start 26th with Otis Adams Jr. 27th, Lucas Cram 28th, with Adam Marak in 29th position. Cato rounds out the top 30. Overall, 44 drivers will take to the grid today. Also of note towards the back, Ollie Harlow deep in the grid 32nd. Also, Hayden Gober, struggled in practice of note, starts 34th. Brian Cebulski, who we've seen towards the front of the pass, 38th. Lubov starting in 39th. Vicente Salas all the way back in 43rd position. All drivers all set to go for the standing start for today's action. Round 5 for the Big C's MX-5 Challenge is all set to go. We're underway for the Charlotte Roval. And Ben Hamlin may have jumped the start from 3rd position. We'll have to keep an eye on the 33 as they go to the Tom's Heartburn turn for the first time. And a great launch by our top front runners. Brandon Hawkin already single file with Brito Hamlin along with Torres and company. Several others though still side by side into the infield.
Yeah, a little bit of shuffling and bumping there as there's a little bit of
Elvis
a
Rankin,
spin.
it's Elvis Rankin, your points leader involved. That may have a big swing for the championship. What a way to start off the race for the 01 machine. Brandon Hawkins second in the points with 2 victories as well, still holding on to the lead, but Brito still keeping up with them. Nose to tail, 0.4 of a second gap between them. Hamlet, Torres, Hides, and Sullivan among the lead group, separated by 2 seconds. Then it's a 1+ second bumper to James Saunders, Eben, and Rico Umbra rounding out the top 9. Kukukut rounding out the top 10 at the moment as they nearly bump each other into the bus stop.
Yeah, this is pretty huge news. Just like as you said, there's already a big gap between Saunders and Sullivan between that 7th and 8th spot because of the wreck that we saw on screen. So big implications already, especially with Robert Hartley now also being a little bit back, fighting 2 wide with Juan Manuel Fernandez into the last chicane.
To the oval specialists, Dylan Alt, Jared Liebert are out of the race. Lowline Racing's Albert with Liebert from Dead Zone Racing. Now, I want to take a look at what just happened with this incident because it is big for these respective competitors for the championship standings. As everyone's settling on in, Elvis Rankin entered today with a 17-point lead after a very rough round for Brandon Hawkin. Now, as these drivers go on through, you'll see this is now on your replay. In the middle of the infield, this is the run towards turns 4 and 5 on the corner exit is where things go wrong.
Yeah, just ahead of him, Juan Manuel Fernandez. He loses the car a little bit on apex on the throttle application. And because of that, in behind, a little bit of a chain reaction that leaves Elvis stranded out of turn number 3.
And for that, you've seen Rankin back in 38th, make it 39th position last time by, currently 38th. Already 2 drivers out, 2 DNSs, Salas and Bernhardt. That may be the opportunity for Brandon Hawkin to try and take over the championship lead, to say the very least. He hit the turtles, though, down the backstretch and nearly launched into the safer barrier.
Shane Sullivan as well. He just cut off his left wing mirror and now gets attacked by James Saunders. The gap continues to be bigger and bigger, but now this time between Heights and Sullivan, as Sullivan is being overtaken now by Saunders into the last chicane.
Alt's officially now out of the race. As right now, Ben Hamlet still keeping up as well. You see the fellow teammates like Saunders in the midst of hard fights. Just broke away from Sullivan, Elvin, and so forth. You can see that's Columbra who is trying to make some moves as well in that grouping. By the way, Sullivan, no more mirrors on that race car. He lost his right mirror down the front stretch.
Yeah, good thing is that you have that virtual mirror in iRacing, so he still can see everything around him. But obviously, in a real race car, that would be quite a big bummer. As he now falls back even further. That is now just inside the top 10 with a 10th place. And it seems like actually Saunders is starting to close up a little bit on that gap to Caleb Hines.
Yeah, Saunders last time 132.4, cars in front in the 132.2, so right near identical on the pace. You can see just needs to close up a touch bit more the braking zones to be able to get to the choo-choo train for the top 5. Live timing and scoring is available for today's race at GSRC.tv to keep up with your favorite teams and drivers. Once again, GSRC.tv for today's action.
Oh, and for 13th position, we actually have a 3-wide situation now going through turns 3 and 4 of NASCAR. On the bottom, that was Shoki Pasti who made the move past both of them.
Nice little move to the inside. This will bump up one more position, though. Remember Ben Hamlin and his jump on the start, Stefan? He's now had to serve the penalty. This was the 3rd lap. Liam Hyde's just got in a crash, though, towards the back of the 128 also in trouble. So several drivers with trouble this lap. Let's take a look at your GSRC replay and see what just happened. This was the final chicane.
A bit weird. I didn't catch the start of it, but seems like just a little self-spin there for the 128.
Take a look from up top.
Whoa!
Got some help.
Had a bump.
Was that Rankin?
I'm not sure who that was. The second car that was spinning. Either way, Thomas Schmidt at 128 lost a lot of positions there.
That was Liam Hines, who was up against the wall once again. The error car, as you just seen, was Thomas Schmidt in all of that. We're looking at Schmidt right now in the midst of a fight after all of that side by side. That's Jose Gonzalez. Christian Lindroff now with a bit of trouble towards the front. He's now had an incident from the top 20. Meanwhile, up towards the front, this is Clifford Eben. Rick Rumbrough fighting for P6 on the racetrack at the moment. Decent cushion built up this time to the corner. 0.6 of a second now. The gap and slowly getting back to the lead grouping as well. And what's been a chaotic start to the Roval. Don't you love the Charlotte Roval?
It always brings that chaotic element for some reason. I don't know what it has with that and the Charlotte Roval, but it always pretty much ends to be a little bit chaotic up and down the order. Though, we have to say, it really hasn't been too chaotic for the top 4. Kelly Pites, Jaume Masas Torres, as well as Andres Prieto and Brandon Hawking. The interesting thing is they're starting to be developing a little bit of a gap, like you can see right now. Jaume Masas Torres loses the back of Prieto ever so slightly. Last time around, 2/100th of a second between those two in favor of the top 2. So, yeah, I don't know, maybe Prieto and Hawking, little bit of a gentleman agreement to not attack each other and work together to lose the 2 behind them.
By the way, let's take a look towards P30. Things are getting chaotic. Drivers like Elvis Rankin have been getting permission to drive through and make passes in this grouping. But our drivers are back here, like Cebulski, like James Clark, like Lubov, who is setting into the outside wall, for example. It's getting pretty chaotic outside the points. You can see just some of the timing for some of these moves. You need to be perfect to be able to get it to where you can make that pass proper, Stefan, around here.
Yeah, you need to have a certain overspeed there. Oh, that's a dive bump and a hop for Clark. Nearly makes it stick as well. But with that, he's losing 2 positions, maybe even 3 if Lubov can be there by turn 1. That's not going to work out. So he lost just 2 positions there trying to attack Dave Farah. And in all reality, he finds himself back in 31st after that one.
By the way, Black flag for Christian Lindroff, who is still getting a tow from another incident. That was the car who apparently made contact, we are hearing, with Thomas Smith. So that is the penalty for that respective incident that was in the chicane. Up towards the front, though. 20 estimated laps to go. Still only about 9 minutes into the race. Brandon Hawkins still holding on to the race lead. Brito's been keeping lockstep with him, however. Torres a car length and a half back. Hyde's a car length in the back from that. James Saunders, though, is inside the draft of this grouping of note, only 2 seconds behind your race leader.
Yeah, James Saunders doing a really top job. Have to really point him out there because he came from so far back. Remember, he was trying to chase down 5th, and then that incident happened, and now he's trying to chase down the top 4. So really doing a top job, starting from 11th as well. So he already gained 6 positions, one of the top chargers inside the top 15 or so. Yeah, he is continuing to be pretty much the same pace, actually faster than the 2 guys in front of him, as Brendan Hawkins last lap a 33.0 versus a 32.0 of 32.8 rather of James Saunders. So top 5 moving together again, and even Cliff Eben 32.9 last time around, so even he is catching this front 5.
That's with already 0.8 of a second of fall off for some of these cars, by the way. Taking a look at the end of the infield, this is once again back onto the racetrack. Lumbro holding on to Eben's draft a little bit. Fernandez, the quickest car overall on the racetrack, just 0.3 of a second of fall off so far. Wow, 3 positions gained for Kukukut. Want to give a shout out to Kukukut because he's improved a lot and now has a chance to maybe pounce here after this potential move. No pounce back, but there is a pass made there by Fernandez.
And Fernandez was actually the fastest car last lap with a 32.6. A whopping 4/10 faster than the first 2 of this race. So Manuel Fernandez, after having that bad incident in the first lap, most definitely bouncing back as well and trying to fight his way back at least into the top 6.
Of note, Henry Morris, who was in 15th, had a crash in the bus stop. Kukukut really loosened down the final chicane down the front stretch as well. Loses some time. Robert Hartley, we haven't mentioned his name too much this season. A multiple-time champion for this series, just P10 right now for the number 24 today, right behind Kukukut at the moment by a car length.
It isn't something very common with Robert Handley, but he really seems to be struggling this time around in the season. Don't know really why that is happening, because he was always a top runner no matter how good or bad he felt about the track. Though we have to say he always dislikes draft racing, and obviously this is a draft track for these guys. Also of note, last time around, Jean-Marc Torres lost 6/10 to Prieto and Hawking.
And that's why I feel like on top of things, that's going to the strengths at times to what Saunders has been able to do, is he's been good in the corners. Also, Hawking and Prieto have been known for being good in the corners. But good move from the back behind. Saunders makes the pass on the apron on Hydes, but for Torres, he's kind of struggled in that section of the racetrack at times.
But in all reality, he doesn't need to really do much right now. He can keep Torres off the limits from the draft of these 2 guys.
Yep.
And Prieto seems to be very content with just sitting in behind and saving fuel, knowing that Torres can't really catch them right now. So he is doing what he needs to do right now.
Shane Sullivan just came into pit. The 91 from the top 10. Austin Smith, also coming into pit. This is going to be interesting for the fuel window. Normally, it's 25 minutes. We have seen drivers make this call in the past to make it work. Others have ran out of gas at the end of the race with this call.
Well, the thing is, these cars don't have a limited fuel cap. They just only get 3.9 gallons, so they can overfill more than 3.9 gallons. So if he makes his calculation right, he should be fine till the end.
Yeah, I was going to say, though, you have to think the amount of fuel you put in is seconds, essentially, for the pit stops. for those drivers, it was about 14.9 seconds we just seen, for example, with Sullivan. So curious how that plays out. That might actually be a decent call to get to the lead pack of note if he can get the pace together off the launch and get some space, because that might get him to where he's right in the mix towards the end of this race, with the average going 16 to 17 seconds this season on pit stops.
Very, very interesting dynamic indeed. And the pace of Saunders continues to baffle me a little bit. 32.929 last lap, around 3 times faster than Brandon Hawking at front. He is most definitely reeling them in at quite some speed.
Yep.
And I'm starting to wonder, will he go and try to overtake these guys and try to make this race a little bit of a faster one?
I mentioned the speed for the infield. I was talking more so in these corners. Once you get to where it's technical, around turns 4, 5, etc. That time he smacked the wall. Now he's got damage on his race car. Towards the back end, that will have to be on the race car until the pit stop then.
Not really sure if he did indeed sustain some damage. Oh, no, wait. I'm seeing some damage there
right rear on the race car. And what a send through the bus stop up to Torres' back end.
But yeah, normally that shouldn't really affect his car. Look at that. Torres is gonna give him the 3rd place, knowing that Saunders is the faster car of those two. So he's just gonna tuck in after that mistake that Torres did there as well.
Yeah, you can definitely tell Saunders has confidence today.
Yeah, most definitely. He seemed to really like this track, really like his car right now that they put together for him. So Saunders on the move, and if you want to keep an eye on someone and you don't have a favorite right now, mark this guy.
Of note, Bachmeier just came into the pit lane from the top 15, so that window has opened for some of the other drivers. And Merak also coming into the pit lane from the top 17. But it shouldn't be a surprise that the driver up the race lead still is Brandon Hawken, even though it's only 4 tenths. I was talking a little bit before with Clifford Evan. One of the main things he mentioned to keep a note of is the fact that he was with PAX Esports, a front runner in that. Specifically took 3rd place at the Roval in the PAX Esports event.
And one thing we haven't shed any light on yet is tire strategy. If you remember, you can take 2 tires in the pit stop without having to serve any penalty for it, meaning you have to stay long in the pit stop.
Yep.
So it is actually really interesting because you can go for either right side tires or left side tires. It should be a pretty equal amount that you're gonna get back from those fresher tires on that side. But would be surprised if we see anybody take right side tires, as the infield is just so crucial to getting a fast lap time around here.
Especially with 1 second of fall off already in this race. The 78 of Columbia has come into pit, by the way, from the top 10. So some of the air cars from the lead groupings have come in. Your biggest movers of note as well. Jared Kaler's up to 21st position. Also of note, Elvis Rankin is already up nearly to the top 15 already in his recovery drive. Has picked up 6 seconds in the past 5 minutes on the clock. So Rankin's recovery drive is going well.
Already up to 14th place, as you can see on an overlay right now. Your biggest mover is right now actually Jared Kaler.
Yes.
While he didn't set a qualifying lap, still means that he went from 42nd to 20th.
But to keep that car clean, make up for the struggles in qualifying. Trouble for Cato from up in front of him of note. Just had to put his car on the tow truck. So several cars on top of pitting are having struggles right in front and around Elvis Rankin's respective race car. The focus goes towards the race leaders though, who ducks in. 21 minutes on the clock. Not the top two at the very least. They can still go for a decent amount of time. The lap times again, only 1 minute 33 seconds, 14 estimated to go.
6 minutes to go in that fuel window. And now a little bit of an interesting situation, a little bit of a bad situation as well as now. Chalmers Torres has run up to the back of Brian Schabelski, who just came out of the pit stall 1 lap ago. As he now moves over. This has cost them a lot of time to these guys. And in the last 3 laps, they've already lost 8/10 to the guys ahead and opened the gap now up to about 3 seconds between Torres and Prieto.
3.1 seconds to be precise between Torres and Prieto now. So they may have to play the strategy card here to try something. They did have Robert Hartley try something different from this grouping. So we'll see how this all plays out. 20 minutes on the clock this time by. What a drive, though, again, for Prieto still in that lead group. He has been lockstep with Hawken the entire race, dead even on lap times. These drivers in this group, 1/10 of a second slower, and have been going back and forth between Torres and Sullivan with the drivers who have struggled on the corner exit of the bus stop because of that safer barrier.
I've just got on an onboard with James Saunders through that backstretch chicane, and it's incredible how much entry curve he takes. He's pretty much just flying over that first apex into there. And in behind, Caleb Heitz goes into pit lane to make that group only a 4-car man right now. But the interesting thing is, it really does seem like that right rear damage Saunders has really is holding it back right now, because he's nowhere near the times he was able to run over.
One driver to keep an eye on for your left side of the screen, Sullivan, who's already up to 15th, however, is fighting with Hayden Gober and Jared Kagler. We're both doing much better than they did in practice/qualifying for this race. Harlow also came in during that window. Bustamante also came in. Those drivers have a overall pit delta of about 40 plus seconds by the time they get to the exit of the pit lane around this racetrack. For Sullivan, he was about 42 seconds behind. Didn't even get to Robert Hartley and Hines after everything cycled on through. For reference sake, this grouping, by the way, lost another second this lap.
And also, quick side note, Caleb Heitz took left side tires in his pit stop.
So that's probably the indicator. We may see left side tires for a majority of the drivers. This grouping, by the way, does have lots of lap traffic to deal with, such as Jose Gonzalez in front of them. That may potentially force some of these drivers on in. 12 estimated laps to go this time. See if anyone peels off to the pit lane. The lap car does. Will any of the lead cars join him as a result? No.
Still got 3 minutes on that clock, so might as well use it all as they just continue to count over these curbs. Oh, Fernandez on a move there against Saunders into turn 1. That's a big no, though. Saunders keeps the inside line, and more crucially, keeps Fernandez in behind. But this is opened up. You can already see about 2-car gap there up to Torres.
I have to say, these cars can handle the turtles much better compared to, say, even the old bus stop with the older damage model. You hit those turtles and hit it wrong, you damage the whole front nose and you're slower and you have a tougher time turning. These, they've been able to just launch off them like it's a rail.
Well, that is just the street suspension that these guys have on. It's a little bit modified, a little bit harder for a little bit of a more racier car, but in reality it's still a very soft suspension compared to a lot of other cars on the surface. Obviously, that still is beat out by the Lotus 49 suspension, which is just basically a sponge.
Here's something interesting just noticed here. Based on the pit deltas, Heitz might be in a great position. He is under that delta just mentioned, only 35 seconds behind, meaning depending on how much fuel is taken by the race leaders, that could be big. Race leader Brandon Hawken just came in. Bump draft in the corner. None of the other drivers from the other pack come in. So Hawken, the first of the top 5, now to blink.
Yeah, and that is exactly that. Because he was all the time out on the lead in the clean air up in front. He wasn't able to save any fuel, so really not surprised to see him blink first of all the people in the top 5. Yep, as you can see, also for him, a left side tires there. Should be a quick stop, about 14 seconds of fuel, like we have seen from pretty much everybody else.
Elvis Rankin of note will pass these cars. Still has yet to pit. Hides of note is going to be really tight up towards them. You can see Rankin pass by there, and Hides with that closer cut with the pit exit. Just not able to get completely there, but within range, much closer than he was before by a couple car lengths.
Quick calculation in my head, should be about 34 to 35 seconds. The pit lane delta here.
Yeah.
So yeah, most definitely just not for him.
So that's shorter than some of the data is being shown. By the way, that depending on some of your pit lane times here at this racetrack. Meanwhile, that second grouping has some drivers electing to pit. They're fighting into the pit lane. Torres and company side by side. Fernandez outbreaks into the cone. Saunders on the left side of the track into the lane. Preto also came in. As per usual, Clifford Eben also stretching his window a little bit further. So a majority of your race leaders from the second pack are in.
I don't know if you mentioned it, but also Prieto from second place into his pit stop. Oh, he's taking right side tires. See, also taking left side tires. No, just right for him. Also, Torres, right side tires. Fernandez with left side tires. Saunders didn't catch that. I think that was also... No, that's also right side tires for Saunders. And he is the first one out.
Thing is, though, they'll come out behind Brandon Hawkins still. So Hawkins is still your net race leader. Hides net P2, but right in front of Saunders and the rest of the group. And now it gets interesting. It's about under 2 seconds the gap for the net race lead. Evan, the only driver yet to pit. The gap, 27.7 seconds between P1 and P2 right now.
And if you look at your standings and you notice somebody's missing. Yes, he is missing in very deep. Andres Prieto just left the pit lane. I'm pretty sure he had a stop and go penalty for exceeding the speed limit.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. Minute and 21 seconds total in the lane. Preto, who was right in line to make a move on Hawkin all race, is out of contention. Evan to the pit lane. Last of the cars in the entire field who have to pit. We'll have to see where he cycles now with Brandon Hawkin down the backstretch.
This, by the way, also meant back to 20th position for Andres Prieto. So a lot of damage there done, and now he's also hit the wall on the exit onto the oval. So this just continues to be worse for him.
Left side tires, by the way, taken by Clifford Eben this time. You're already surpassing 15 seconds, and already Brandon Hawkin driving on by. Eben, though, might still be in touch. In fact, will still be in touch with the lead pack. Coming out side by side with some of the cars. In fact, right behind Hides. A good overcut call there for Eben that actually gained him positions. He was around P60 for the pit stops.
Yeah, and an overcut actually does bring you quite a lot here as he goes super wide through turn 3. This is going to open up the door for James Saunders. He's going to go around the outside, as it seems like. Does he make it stick as well? Yes, he does. Maybe goes a little bit wide there on the turn 6 apex, but makes it stick. Great job by Saunders. And the thing is, with Clifford Eben, he now has about a 1 lap younger tire than Saunders up ahead. Doesn't sound like a lot, though we are challenged. Huge tire wear on these cars, and that could mean potentially quite a lot to come through last lap.
Keep in mind, Brendan Hawkin, a 133.1 last time by. Hides a 133.3. Off to the turtles once again as Saunders nearly clips the safer barrier. These cars may need a little bit of luck to get up to the top 2. And for Hides, he needs a lot of luck, potentially, in the pit box IO car to get back to Brendan Hawkin. With 8 estimated laps to go, traffic could be a major factor here, depending on where they reach him.
And it is really interesting. Caleb Heights takes a huge amount of turtles every single lap, and completely different to that, you see Brandon Hawking barely take any curbs pretty much everywhere, just ever so slightly hops over them, only takes the minimum required amount of curbs, and I think that is why he is faster than the guys around him, because he doesn't take all those curbs. He keeps his car on the ground, keeps it on the grip side, and thus just keeps on the momentum in the car.
Take a look on board. In this section alone, he pulled another 2/10. Hides reached lap traffic, but then lost a tenth based on the lift point. Heading off to turn 5, gained another tenth of a second through turn 6 and 7. And just like that, from 1.57 seconds up to 2 seconds flat is the gap amongst those cars. Good example will also be here for this bus stop.
And there you were able to see it. Brandon Hawking takes a lot of curb, but in behind Caleb Heights just so much more. And it's just so much slower for him out of the bus stop. So Caleb Heights, that is where he's losing quite a lot. And I think he's only going to lose more in the way he's taking that bus stop.
Indeed. 7 estimated laps to go. Brandon Hawking looking for his 3rd win on the season, by the way. Elvis Rankin, by the way, is in the points. He is in 14th position. Still has to reel in 5 seconds to the next position, for reference sake, to Nicholas Short. But still at least score points, but likely, unless he can gain several positions in the final few minutes, would lose the points lead to the number 7 car for this race today in Hawken from Global SimRacing. Saunders, though, still fighting with Clifford Eben, you see, for P3, the final step of the podium today. Torres, the fastest car on the racetrack last time by a 1:32.9.
He's having all that draft from the 2 guys ahead. He is closing in on them. And the interesting thing is right now, James Saunders, once again, a lot of damage on his car, as it seems like, on the right side. But Clifford Eben just can't really make a move on Saunders. Maybe he's also really content behind him, as they are indeed catching Caleb Heights up ahead.
Yeah, Heights has completely fallen off the table with his undercut call. Just completely slipping on back, and the cars in this group are quicker than a race leader, but only by a couple tenths. Do you think they can get to Brandon Hawken if they can find a way to get by then work with Hides in this drafting train, and as well pick up more cars such as Fernandez, who's now within the red box?
Well, the thing is, they are only just a couple of hundredth faster than Brandon Hawking. Last lap around, they're actually 2/100th of a second slower. So I'm really sure they are only gonna catch Hives, but that is the maximum for them here today, because Brandon Hawking just 2.5 seconds up already. They are not gonna be catching them, as we're looking at the battle for 15th place between Bustamante, Herro, Smith, and Graham.
Sorry, Harlow for BRT, who is currently amongst that grouping, as contact. Harlow gets doored into the wall. They crash on the front stretch. Bustamante, Lucas Cram, a couple others involved in that incident. Well, that's a way to make sure you lose points. Austin Smith is now in 15th because of that.
And an innocent bystander there of Lucas Cram. Nothing he can do about the 43 machine there, and has to sadly take a face full of Miata.
Yeah, that doesn't feel good. Let's put it that way. Because, like all other cars, being hit by a door is not good. By the way, this is also where Preto is as well, and Odis Adams Jr., who's plus 10. We haven't mentioned his name too much today.
Speaking of names that we haven't really said too often,
here comes the move.
Robert Hartley. 8th place right now for him, as yes, he said it, the move is coming.
That's Preto, who got the run on the apron, in fact, to set that up a little bit. Backing it up that time to let him on go is Smith. and moved Rachel back on the points. Only just a singular point to his name. Now the interesting mark is, can the hashtag not a team car make a move? For those who do not know, there are several cars with the hashtag not a team. If you have several cars with the same type of hashtag, does that make you a team? Even though you say you're not a team with your hashtag?
The hashtag not a team.
Well, that's a way to phrase it. Robert Hartley, you mentioned, by the way, is battling for P8. You wanted to touch on him, Stefan, a little bit.
Yeah, it's just continues that way for Robert Hartley. Just a bad day at the office, and it just continues to get worse. He's being caught from behind by Rui Coimbra, and he's bringing with him... No, that's actually that car, never mind. But yeah, he's being chased down by Rui Coimbra, and yeah, it just isn't a great day at the office. I know I've stretched that phrase quite a bit already here today, but Robert Hartley, no speed in that MX-5 whatsoever, in practice, in qualifying, and it continues to translate into the race.
He's getting reeled in by that team machine. Meanwhile, here's the choo-choo train. 3+ seconds behind your race leader. Hines has now been reeled in. 4 estimated laps to go. Saunders looking for his best finish in a long while in this series. Eben looking for a podium. Torres looking for great points to stay within reach of Hawken and company for the battle for the championship lead. Saunders might try and take a peek in the bus stop once again. He is taking some looks already through this infield section. Hyde starting to slide the tires in the pit box.io car. Still holding on to the preferred line though as they go off to NASCAR 1. Oh, a bit of contact. Saunders hit the back end. Checked up the whole entire pack. Several cars snaked up to the middle line after that bit of contact. Here comes...
Wait for them.
And a big defensive line from Hides. He doesn't want to give up this spot. Saunders, though, sends it off to the bus stop again. Hides messes up the bus stop. And Hides blocking all the way to the blue line once again. Caleb does not want to give up his best finish or best run this season, it seems. That lost the pack another second in all that fighting.
Yeah, at this point up ahead, Brandon Hawking can just relax. His win is pretty much in clear waters already, but these guys most definitely fighting. It's 5 cars fighting for second and third place. Even Juan Manuel Fernandez from the back has joined them once again after, and I once again say it, his horrible mistake in turn 1 that did cost him quite a lot of speed and places.
Alone to Saunders, be patient. The answer is not a lot. Saunders doors him after turn 6. Able to make the pass on the right side of the racetrack. Hides though with a chance to send it back. Tries to send it hard to the inside to the quarter panel, just about no. Hides though with the preferred line off through NASCAR 1 and 2 as they door each other again with 2 laps to go estimated this time.
3 doors, 4 doors. Come on, can we also get a 5th door? No, we can't, but still, Kelly bites to the inside there, brakes later, brakes hard. Can he make the move? Stick his
There's a 5th. Saunders shuffled out. Torres makes the move. Evan now to the outside. Well, that was coming through the middle of the bus stop. Tempers flaring there. Almost looked like we seen the cup race for a moment.
Wait for that motor. Will he do now behind the 17? Will he go to the right side? No, look, that 17 hard on the brakes, late on the brakes, makes it stick as well, doesn't lose momentum, and he is back to the back of Damas Torres as in behind Juan Manuel Fernandez does hit the wall as well.
Hides also hit the wall as well once again to scrape some sparks up. Now Torres with a chance to try and fight here. 2 laps to go. Again, we are in the clear and then some for that mark as Torres is quicker. Huge run off to turn 5. Hides leaves it wide into the corner. Torres, will he send it? No. Might wait for the bus stop. Of note, Austin Smith has had to pit. He was on that undercut strategy with Sullivan as they hit the wall again. More trouble for Saunders as Evan now gets past.
The third time that Saunders hits the wall somewhere in this race, so really not good line control of him, and he's going to be shuffled back all the way to the rear of this pack as here comes Chalmers starts.
And this time Hides backs up the braking mark. Lap traffic ahead as Torres makes the move. The question is, can Torres now hold on to P2? Hides now shuffled to third. Evan now next up. White flag this time by 40 seconds left on the clock.
Clifford Evan, third place just ahead of him. He's staying content right now, or does he? No, he's going to stay behind. So, last lap, Chalmers starts is going to lead this pack into it, but who is going to lead them out of it? As once again, Saunders with a wall hit completely loses the 3 ahead.
Saunders' car falling off. Hawken leads now by more than 6 seconds. Contact is Hides. Clifford Evan ran into the back end of him. This is getting very, very interesting. Of note, Sullivan has had to pit as well. His strategy has also gone belly up. Evan now, great run off to turn 5, rips away the podium for the 92.
And that is the younger tires that he has on the left side. I have to add, he not only hit the back of Hyde, but he also hit the inside wall as now Caleb Hines hits the outside wall. This is going to move Fernandez to the inside, Saunders to the inside of Fernandez, and here now look at that, Caleb Hines, I think he might even be out of fuel because he's super slow.
Yes, he is. Hines is slowed down off to NASCAR 2. He is out of gas. Several cars are out of gas down the backstretch as well. That is Liam Hines who's moving out of the way, who's also out of gas. Torres now with a good cushion to the final bus stop, but for Brandon Hawken, a massive cushion. He led just about every single lap today for Global SimRacing. For the 3rd time this season, the Canadian Brandon Hawken takes the checker flag of the Big C's MX-5 Challenge. He wins at the Charlotte Roval.
Oh, and Evan is out of fuel.
Several cars for the podium run out of gas. Torres does not. And Saunders, as a result, steals away the podium. Fernandez 4th and Evan forced to take the Legends Oval, running out of the gas. Highs still trying to get across the stripe is in P9. Kukukut and Columbra along with Hartley did pass him on the racetrack. Hides does get 9th. Bachmeyer crashes into him for 10th. Rankin recovers to 12th. And Sullivan with the top off is in the midst of a fight for the final spots of the points. That is Nicholas Short and Andreas Prito, all scrapping as they door each other. Prito stuffed to the fence. Odise Adams Jr. will take the final points paying position. Are you kidding? For a final lap, that one is one to remember. Let's put it that way. Post-race coverage coming up after this as we'll digest a crazy final lap for the second pack on back. You're watching the Global SimRacing Channel, the Big C's MX-5 Challenge from the Charlotte Roval. Welcome back to the virtual Charlotte Motor Speedway for the minus 273 post-race show. Whether it's on the real track or the virtual track, minus 273 has one goal in mind: produce the best racing gloves to get the job done. With unmatched comfort, durability, and style, their gloves will leave your old ones in the dust. Find out how they can help you by visiting minus273.biz. A very, very wild final lap, to say the very least, for all drivers except for Brandon Hawkin. He dominated today's race, led just about every single lap, and in the end pulled away from the rest of the pack by 6 seconds to take his third victory of the season. The second pack, though, which featured a majority of your other top 5 finishers, was a different story. Torres in the closing stages took away P2 and held on to it in a crazy final few laps, while Saunders, after several competitors had trouble or ran out of gas, finished on the podium after being shuffled back to 6th at one point. Fernandez jumped up to P4 in what was a quiet but strong run for him, while Clifford Evan ran out of gas and lost the podium position to finish P5 instead. Kukuku recovered to P6 after losing that pack, 13 seconds back, holding off Week Columbra, with Robert Hartley in P8. Caleb Hides got hit from the back end by Bachmeier after running out of gas in P9. Not to mention Bachmeier rounded out your top 10 in a crazy one.
Shotkin Basti moves up from 19th to finish in 11th place, which I think is actually his season high thus far. Evers Rankin, bad start to the race after the mistake from Juan Manuel Fernandez that did put him all the way down to 20th position. Climbs his way back up into 12th place. Shane Sullivan loses a lot of position with that forced splash and dash down in 13th. Nicholas Short, 14th for him, and Otis Adams sneaks away at top 15 finish with that 1 point from 27th, and he sneaked that point past Andres Prieto, who got a little bit hung up there by a mistake from the guys ahead. He was spun around, had to turn around, and thus lost the point in the very end. Juan Bustamante finished in 17th with Henry Morse in 18th. Ben Hamlet, really bad day for him. Haven't spoken really about him whatsoever. From 3rd down to 19th. That 33 machine, most definitely not heavy. Austin Smith was running out your top 20.
Yeah, that jump start really cost him today. What a drive, though, from 34th to 21st after having a very rough practice session for Hayden Gober. In 21st, he goes from 42nd to 22nd, though, as your biggest mover in Jared Kaler. Good run for him, but not in the points. Simon Apalding finished 23rd. Arlie Harlow was in the points at one point, got shuffled to 24th in the end. Sadeep Lastari wanted out. That was Seti, rather. Finished out your lead lap cars, while Ulabov finished 26th, Dave Farr in 27th, Brian Sabalski 28th, Lee Martin and Kato rounded out your top 30 today, one lap down.
Yeah, Shovel Sprem finished in 31st with Jose Gonzalez in 32nd. Last car, one lap down. Liam Heights, he was running out of fuel on the last lap, thus he got lapped the second time to finish in 33rd. 2 laps down with Lucas Cram, 34th, 3 laps down. James Clark as well, 3 laps down in 35th. With Daniel Munoz, I think he's one of the first cars to retire, in 36th. Adam Mariek finished 37th, 12 laps down, as well as Vincent Wood in 38th. Thomas Schmidt, a very bad day at the office for him, 16 laps down from 24th down to 39th, with Christian Lendrad very early giving up down in 40th place.
2 other cars made the starts today, were involved in that incident that collected Rankin today. Dylan Alt, Jared Liebert, 2 oval specialists, did not make it out of the first lap. They both DNF, while Vicente Salas, after a poor qualifying performance, and Brian Bernard did not make the start. 44 drivers entered today's race. But the one who conquered them all for the 3rd time this season is Brendan Hawkin in victory lane. Brandon, good victory today for you. How are you feeling?
Hey, Justin. Yeah, feeling great. I was looking forward to this race. I did like a million laps here, practicing for PAX Almost Pro. So I was really looking forward to this, and I was just happy everything went really well. Went really smoothly. Nothing too crazy happened. So it was just a really smooth race, and happy to come home with a W there.
Indeed, you mentioned some of that preparation from PAX. How big was that, especially with being able to carry that over and translate it to this MX-5 for today to know how you can take the bumps, how you can take the turtles? Because a lot of the air drivers, they were using the turtles almost as a ramp. You were really smooth throughout the race today in those sections that they were losing a tenth a part in some times.
Yeah, it was big for sure. Like with the time trial, you can go and look at other people's laps, see what they're doing, and yeah, I think that helped a lot. You can kind of you can really understand how hard you can push it over the curbs and what you can do differently by watching those ghost laps and stuff. So yeah, once like after PAX there, yeah, I just kind of came back. I was thinking, just do the same sort of thing. So yeah, just really had a really great time running the Roval, and yeah, really great battle there with Andres at the very start there too.
Yeah, indeed. Reyes ended up getting a penalty for his pit lane entry, by the way, in that regard. But after the struggles, Elvis Rankin, unofficially, you are projected as the potential points leader after today. We'll have to see how things cycle through. Either or, you'll be very close again after a 17-point deficit. That means in total, there's going to be a lot on the line for the start of the second half of the season for Brands Hatch. Your thoughts on Brands Hatch now that the championship is much more tighter?
Yeah, I think this championship battle is going to go all the way to the final race. It's gonna be nuts. So yeah, we're just gonna have to like continue to be consistent, stay out of trouble. Last week was a bit of a heartbreaker there, but it is what it is. So yeah, we're just gonna try and like do our best the next half of the season, and that's all we can really do. It's going to be a really tight battle with Elvis and Home, I think, and yeah, it should be a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Anyone you want to thank for your run today?
I just like to thank all my teammates at Movano Racing, you guys in the booth, Clifford, all the admins. It's like all the series sponsors. It's a really great series we have going on, and yeah, just one of the like main things I look forward to on the weekend. So yeah, just hats off to everybody, and yeah, we'll see you guys next week.
By the way, confirmation just received. This is from iRacing, from the point system. There's a tie for second between Torres and Rankin after today, but you are the points leader by 9 points. Congratulations on the win.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot. Thanks.
Brandon Hawken, your points leader, entering the second half of the season. That is big, Stefan. Your thoughts as we get ready for the second half of the season next week?
Well, it is starting to look a little bit like Brandon Hawking is the man to beat. He is on form. He has won 3 races now in this series. We have only had 3 winners thus far. And compared to the others, he hasn't shown any weaknesses yet. So it leaves a lot to decide from the other guys, but you have to really put it up to him because that was just an impressive work thus far. Though, one thing we have to mention, round 6, Brands Hatch, the first non-draft track these guys will face this season. Or actually the second, sorry, we had Okayama.
Well, also don't forget Suzuka, where we thought draft could play in, and then craziness ensued. Guess who won that race? Brandon Hawken by a decent portion. Okayama, though, if you count that, the driver who recovered from 38 to 12th today, Elvis Rankin, won that season opening event. In other words, get your popcorn out. It's going to be an entertaining second half of this campaign when we roll into Brands Hatch. But we'd like to thank you for tuning in for tonight's exciting race from the Charlotte Motor Speedway. We'd also like to thank Clifford Evan and Big C's for organizing this strong series, as well as the sponsors, Sim Experience, SH8 Shifter, -273, and Pitbox.io. We'd also like to thank the companies who provide the software and hardware for broadcast. Listen up on screen. Special thanks go to Jude Lawner, provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks as well to the team today and Stefan and Sean. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including the upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. If you'd like to help support the channel, you can check out our merchandise for sale at gsrc.storyviewwhite.com. Or you can check out our social media on Twitter at GSR Channel. Yes, indeed. Facebook at Global SimRacing Channel and Instagram GSRC_Gram. Don't forget to head over to YouTube page as well and hit that big red subscribe button as well as the notification bell so you don't miss a moment of Global SimRacing Channel. Next race heads to Brands Hatch November the 22nd. Be sure to buckle up and tune in because the championship fight just took a massive turn today. Be sure to tune in to see who can conquer the technical track and see who can keep their cars out of all that grass. We also have upcoming races for other series now listed up on your screen, so be sure to check those out as well and mark them down to your calendar. Until next time, race hard, race clean, and we'll see you on the track.